Hello everyone, welcome to my channel on immersive travel, where I talk about historic aspects of the places that I visit and that I personally find interesting. This video is about Billionaires Row in New York City. At the moment I live here, so I'm going to be making quite a few videos in New York City. I hope you enjoy this one. I gotta admit that I'm still learning how to handle the camera while speaking, so at times the camera would not be perfect in this video. However, I try to do my best, and at least for a first timer. So you can expect things to get better in the future videos. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi folks, today I'm in the streets of New York in a place called Billionaires Row, and I'm going to be walking through this area and I'll be talking about a few important buildings in this area. The reason why this place is called Billionaires Row is because a lot of billionaires live here, of course. But why do they actually live here, right? So Billionaires Row is 2 blocks below Central Park, or to the south of Central Park. And there are a series of high-rise buildings over here. And at least 5 of them, as of 2020, are above 1,000 feet tall. And that's the reason they are called super tall towers. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk in this neighborhood and we're going to look at some of these towers, at least 5 of them, and I'll be talking about the history of these towers, how tall they are, and any other tidbits of information I've gathered to improve the experience of watching this video. So now I'm going to switch the camera and let's look at what we have. So the first building that we're going to look at is called 432 Park Avenue, and I'm going to scroll my camera upwards. I'm going to show you a view of the building. As you can tell, it's a pretty tall tower and I'm on the street just right beside it, so it's going to take me a few moments to get there. But when I get there, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this tower and why it is designed the way it is designed. It's a pretty interesting story. So let's get there. So now I've walked around to a corner where I can see the tower a little better, and I'm going to show you the tower now. So this is the tower at 432 Park Avenue, and the tower is about 1,396 feet tall. That's really tall. In fact, it is world ranked at number 31, I want to say, and it is ranked at number 6 in the US and number 5 in New York City. So this is the 5th tallest tower in New York City. The funny thing about this tower is that it was designed after a trash can. An Austrian designer had a trash can, or designed a trash can basically in the mesh-like structure, and the designer who finally chose to make this was inspired by that. So you can think about it as like it's a rich man's trash can. That's what it looks like, guys. The other interesting thing about this tower is that at least about 14 years ago, so in 2006, this tower did not exist. In fact, there was a hotel over here. The hotel was called the Drake Hotel, and it was sold in 2006 for about $440 million. The tower was demolished in 2007, and later on construction began, and eventually actually construction began in 2012 and ended in 2015. So it was built pretty quickly as compared to the other towers that we're going to see on this journey. This didn't seem to have had a lot of hassle. The other interesting thing about this tower, if you notice, is that there are gaps in the building. So this tower actually has 85 floors that are habitable, and there are many two-floor gaps, and that's so that there can be enough airflow. Now the problem with all these towers is that even though they are really tall, to give them the kind of stability they need, especially when there is a storm or there's a hurricane, because New York is on the East Coast, so sometimes you have hurricanes, sometimes you have storms, and you don't want these buildings to just fall down, right? So they create these levels, these empty levels, so that there can be adequate airflow. As you can tell, there is not even a memory of the hotel over here, but the hotel was special because it was probably one of the first discotheques in New York, so the first disco in New York, and now you don't even see it here. I really like this tower. I think it looks nice, especially the gaps in between the building. That makes it a bit unique, and I think the glass is also colored in a certain way, so you can get good shots actually over here if you come and look at this tower. And I'm going to end the video here before I walk to the next tower, and you can take a look at this whenever you visit New York. Let me also show you some of the surrounding buildings. I don't know what this is, but it seems like a dwarf as compared to the other tower. 1400 feet, world rank 31, US rank number 5. Sorry, New York rank number 5, US rank number 6. 432 Park Avenue. Now let's go to the next one. So the next building on our list is 53rd West 53rd. So let me show you this building from here. And sorry for the tree, it's getting in the way, but I'll go a little forward. This building is interesting. This is actually complete, and it's about 77 floors tall. But I'm quite far away, so when I get close I'll talk a little more about it. But the view from here is actually pretty good, so I'll probably stop and take some pictures, especially this particular shot. The other reason I stopped here is because I'm beside a building called as 535 Madison, and if you can see, it's pretty nicely decorated. Now I don't know how tall this building is. When I look up, the view is pretty crazy as well. So let's take a look. I'm gonna have to use both my hands so the camera is stable. And there you go. And if I go a little bit further, that's what it looks like. So, another pretty tall building, but I guess not as tall as the one that we're gonna look at. So I'm gonna walk closer to the building, maybe at least a block closer, so I can get a nice view. And then I will tell you more about this building as well. Lots of tall skyscrapers here. Alright, so I'm at the foot of the building of 53rd West 53rd. And let me show you the building. Well, not exactly at the foot, I'm just half a block away. There are a bunch of trees that are getting in the way, but I think it makes everything look prettier. And there are also a bunch of trucks that are trying to park. Well, the interesting thing is this building is right beside the Museum of Modern Art. In fact, they share a story. So the Museum of Modern Art actually owned the entire area, and they sold the land on which this building is standing, as well as they sold the air rights above the building to the builder. And you may be wondering what that is. So if you look at the Museum of Modern Art, it's only a few floors high, maybe 3 floors, I guess, 3 or 4 floors at the max. So there's a rule in New York that you cannot build above a certain height, and in order to bypass those rules, what happens is builders sell, or homeowners will sell the rights, the air rights of their building to a builder that is willing to pay a price for it. So by buying enough air rights for surrounding buildings, you can now accumulate height for your own building. So this was one of the first buildings that was constructed here. However, construction started back in 2014. I think it was the first building that was proposed, but construction started in 2014. And I think because it was one of the first, they originally proposed it to be 1350 feet tall. But the city was unwilling to have such a tall building. There was a lot of opposition. Even folks from the museum were opposing. There was some stuff, some drama about the building being too tall and God knows whatnot. So the city ultimately said that if you cut it down by 200 feet, we're going to let you build it. So now the building is 1050 feet tall instead of 1350 feet tall. It still keeps it in the super tall category, which is anything above 1000 feet. So I'm going to keep walking a little bit here. And as you can see, it looks pretty cool. From down here, it has a bit of a slant. And this building has 77 floors. I think I mentioned that before. I'm going to try to avoid going under the shed. But 77 floors tall. And the cost of living here, in case you're wondering, if you have extra money lying around, you can buy the penthouse suite for about $80 million, which is probably somewhere on the top. Or, if you just need space to keep your extra luggage, you can get a small room over here, a small house, or a small studio here, which will cost you merely $3 million, $3 million US. And those are the rates in 2020. Oh look, you have the Hilton beside it. So that's a little bit of story about this building. And then you have another building over here. Oh, that is the Hilton. Okay. So that's the Hilton, which is shaped like a cake. So I'm going to move on to the next building while leaving you with the view of this. So now I took a right at the corner of the previous tower that we saw. And what do I see here? I see 111 West 57th Street. Oh, that's the name of the tower basically. It's also called the Steinway Tower. And it is named so because there's a theatre that is attached to it, the Steinway Theatre. So I'm going to walk closer to this tower before I talk a little bit more about it. But as you can tell, this tower, at the time of this video being shot, which is October 2020, is still under construction. And construction began in 2014 and it's still going on. It's 2020, and I believe things have been delayed a lot more because of the pandemic, because people were not allowed to congregate and build, I guess, for a while. So work was paused. I don't know the status of the work right now. I believe stuff is going on, but it will take a while for this building to be built. But I'm going to continue walking down, and you see a bus. It's interesting. I've seen a lot more of these scooters in New York these days. I believe because people are trying to avoid taking the subway. But look at the street. There's like building after building after building, and that's the Hilton Hotel. And then I don't know what this is. And then you reach this tower. So let's go closer to the tower and let's talk a little bit more about it. Yeah. So now I'm across the street of 111 West 57, and here's the building. I guess the entrance is not from here, but I didn't know that. Anyways, it's a pretty good view, and I can actually see things moving up. If you look at this tiny block at the end of the building, it's actually construction equipment that is going up. So as of October 2020, it's still under construction and it's in progress. So this building has a lot of lawsuits actually in the past 10 years or so, since it was proposed and stuff like that. A lot of builders have been suing each other for delays in construction and God knows whatnot. The other interesting part or interesting fact about this building is that it is one of the thinnest skyscrapers in the world, and that's with respect to the amount of surface area versus the height. So it is one of the thinnest skyscrapers in the world. That's not something that can be said for the other buildings that you saw earlier. So yeah, as far as cost, well, since it's still under construction, I don't know a lot about the pricing, but on September 11, 2020, which is just about a month ago, the penthouse suite for this building went on sale for $66 million. And the area of that house, or a duplex or triplex or whatever it is about 7,000 square feet. So it's probably at the top somewhere over there. And the reason why these penthouses are so expensive is because you get a very nice view of Central Park. For example, you see the street over there? Or let me just go. No, it's going to take me a while to walk. But if I were to just walk that way and take a left, one block to my left is Central Park, or 2 blocks to my left, I'll see Central Park. So the views from all of these buildings are supposedly really good because there's nothing in the way, at least at that height. There's nothing in the way, and you're in a posh neighborhood. So with that, let's move on to the next building, which is this one. And this is one of my favorite buildings, but I'm gonna walk a little bit further so I can get a clearer view, and then I'll talk about it. So before I go ahead and talk about one of these buildings, I wanted to show you an interesting view of the skyline, and I'll tell you why it is interesting. So if you look at the skyline now, you're actually going to see 3 buildings. The one on the left is the Steinway Tower, or 111 West 57. The one in the middle with the colored glass is 157, and the one on the right is Central Park Tower. So these 3 are literally 3 tallest buildings in New York, I think so, apart from, well, the other one, the tallest one in New York. So these are probably the 3rd, 2, 3 and 4, I would say, and they're all in the same shot right now. So I'm going to talk more about the other 2 buildings. We already talked about the Steinway Tower on the left. I'll talk more about 157 once I get a little bit closer, and then I'll talk about Central Park Tower. So, great view. Now I'm at the corner of a street from where I can look at the building known as 157. And to me, this is a very pretty building. I really like the colors of the window and the glasses, or the windows and glasses basically. I like it. I like the way it reflects. However, in 2014, when it was completed, it was called the ugliest building in New York by a magazine called Curb.com, Curbet. So they said this is the ugliest building in New York just because of the way it looks. Well, I tend to disagree. I like it. And behind that you can see the Steinway Tower. The interesting fact about this building is that this was the first high ultra-rise condominium to be built in New York. So this was built or finished construction in 2014. So I think from 2010 to 2014. And the moment this building was built, this entire place was called as Billionaires Row. So this is the one building that gives it the name, and it's aptly named 157 because, I guess maybe not because, but it was the first. I guess the address is also 1. So it's a fine name for a fine building. So since this is the first one, it took about 15 years to collect the air rights to build this building. At the same time, this building is not as tall as the others. So Steinway Tower is a bit taller. The Steinway Tower behind it is about 1458, so it's really tall. Whereas this one is about 1050. It's about 400 feet shorter than the Steinway. Nevertheless, it is still a super tall tower, which is anything that is beyond 1000 feet. It has 75 floors, and its claim to fame was in 2018 when Michael Dell, who owned Dell Computers, purchased a house in this building, or the penthouse suite in this building, for about $100 million, which made it the most expensive house in New York City. The record of that was only broken in 2020 when a hedge fund manager called Ken Griffin purchased a house for $228 million in another building. And let me see if I can see where the building is. I think it's not here. I think it's not on this street. I believe it's probably a building over there. I don't remember. But it was another building called 220 Park South or something of that sort. And he bought it for $228 million, and that is now the most expensive house in New York City. So, Michael Dell has a house in this building, or in this one, in the one here, in this nice, beautiful colored building for $100 million. That is 100 million. So, that's a lot of money to me. And as you can see, those are the trees of Central Park. If you're wondering what that is, those are not random trees. That's where Central Park starts. And the moment I cover one of the last building on my tour, I'm then going to walk into Central Park, and we will then look at all these buildings from Central Park. So let's do that. So I finally walked just a few steps from 157, which is over there, that beautiful building over there. And if I keep going to my left, I'm going to look at this building over here, which is the Central Park Tower. And this is going to be the last tower that I'm going to cover in this trip. But this tower is really tall. It's 1,500 feet tall. It is also known as the Nordstrom Tower. Some of the interesting facts about this tower is that it is, in fact, the second tallest tower in the United States, and it is the 15th tallest tower in the world, 15. But it is also the second tallest tower in New York City, which means the tallest tower in the US and the tallest tower in New York City is in New York City, and it is not this one. The tallest tower in New York City is the One World Trade Center, which is about 1,700 feet tall as of 2020. And this tower is 1,500 feet tall as of 2020. and it has reached its maximum height already. So this tower reached its maximum height in September 2019. This tower actually has a lot of floors. Can you guess how many? The others had around 75, 80 or something of that sort. So this one has 131 floors, but only 98 of them are habitable. So what do you think is on the other floors? Well, they almost have like 3 to 4 floors of meeting spaces and luxury dining halls and all that kind of stuff. So multiple floors, multiple consecutive floors of that, and then you have some residential floors, and then a few more floors of that. So you have a lot of floors that are not meant for living, but just meant for relaxing and chilling out. This tower was supposed to be built or completed in 2020, but it is still under construction. As you can tell, based on everything around here, by the looks of the scaffolding around the building. The one of the interesting things about this is there have been a bunch of lawsuits against this building in terms of construction. So, like there was a security guard who died because some construction material fell on him, and one of the funniest incidences was not, I shouldn't say funny, but quite unusual incidents, at least to me, was that sliding ice on the walls of this building, so can actually catch a speed of up to 70 miles an hour, and some of that ice happened to fall on a person, and that person had to be taken to the hospital. I mean, they survived it, but it was an injury caused by ice sliding down across the walls of this building. So there have been some funny incidents like that, and nothing major, but well, unless you don't consider a death as a major incident, but seems like there's always something going on when a tall building like this is being constructed. So let's see how long it takes to be built, and it's October 2020 and it's not yet done. I think I'm standing on the side of the building where you don't see any construction workers doing their job, but on the other side you'll see a lot of stuff. There's a crane, and I think probably one of the tallest cranes to be used is being used on this tower right now. And yeah, that marks the end of the tour from this part, and now I'm going to continue towards Central Park. So I'm going to take a right from here, and that will take me to a place called Columbus Circle, and that's how I will enter Central Park, and then we will look at all of these buildings and see what they look like from there. Alright, so let me end the tour here, and we'll continue it from the park. So I'm finally in Central Park now. As you can see, there are a bunch of people around here, and this is the southmost part of Central Park, southmost end, 59th Street I want to say. And to my right you're going to see a bunch of the buildings that we saw earlier. So if you can see in the distance there, we can see the first one, which was 432 Park Avenue. It is visible from here. The second one here is Steinway. The third one is 157. The fourth one is Central Park Tower. And the one on the right, which I did not cover, is 220 Central Park South. And I think that is the one in which Ken Griffin bought the most expensive house for $228 million. So I didn't talk about it, I believe, because it was not on my list. Maybe I should make a video about it. But we can see 4 of the buildings that we covered today. The other one, which was 111 something. Uh, I can't remember the number. I think that's somewhere behind, so you can't see it here. So it makes for a pretty decent view actually. So this is a good shot. I'm actually in the right spot. I'm at the entrance of a street, and I can see four big towers here, four tall towers. I am definitely missing that one. Oh, look at this! I got all the five tall towers in one shot here. However, this makes for a better picture. So I'm probably gonna walk around a little bit, gonna take a few pictures, and hey, here's something interesting that you can do in New York. You can get a carriage, and you can sit in it and get a ride in the park. If it is something that fancies you, it's not something that I care about, but it's cool. So I like this shot. I'm gonna take a few pictures here, and then I'll probably wrap it up. If you stuck around so long, thanks for watching. I'm going to be putting out more videos now that I am in New York. I live in New York now, so I'm going to put out a few more videos for the various places that I visit. And of course, if you like what I did here, if you like this view, if you like the way I talk about all of these things, you can like and subscribe, join me on my channel, and look forward to your comments. Thank you.